crossfired. If you don't give us the facts, others will supply the facts. I know you don't want to miss it. Catch us on Radio Winnie 98.3 FM and you are there to be part of this very discourse. Meet me there, your regular host, Collins KOFI AWUKU.
This is Radio Windy Bay, Windy Bay 98.3 FM.
The wait is over. The long wait is over. Hotspot is back on Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM on every Tuesday between 7:30 and 10 p.m. I'm sure you really want to be part of this intellectual discourse, devoid of political coloration. I mean, partisan political coloration. The producers are there to do the fact-checking of everything that you say, and you are sure to be crossfired. If you don't give us the facts, others will supply the facts. I know you don't want to miss it. Catch us on Radio Winnie 98.3 FM and you are there to be part of this very discourse. Meet me there, your regular host, Collins KOFI AWUKU.
This is Radio Windy Bay, Windy Bay 98.3 FM.
Well, I so much agree with Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah when he said that let's allow the African to either manage or mismanage its own affairs. I'm sure you also agree with me. Of course, okay. The station is Radio Winnie Bay. I'm yours truly, Collins AWUKU, and the program is Hotspot Reloaded, as it is said. I want to say a very big thank you to the production team that I put the program together once again for us, and we are enjoying. Last week, we had a very wonderful time tracing the history of Ghana before the Fourth Republic. Things were said, some education was given. We are continuing today with the background to the story. Remember, the core theme is the Fourth Republic of Ghana, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We just want to be sure that we are well grounded in the background. Then, of course, from that point, we can move on to really dissect and bisect the Fourth Republic proper. My guests are already seated in the house. I have Dr. AMANOR LATEY and our very good brother, Dr. TUTU-BOAHENE. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the studios of Radio Windy Bay.
Thank you very much.
How was the weekend and that week up to today like for us all?
Well, thank you and good evening to your discerning listeners and viewers. Well, the weekend has been good. I was a bit under the weather, but I'm okay now.
Let's hope that I didn't give mine to you.
And at the Utah front too, it has been an interesting Sunday and Monday for us.
Okay.
Yes. We thank the Pro VC for his intervention in some few issues.
Okay.
He has shown that he's a real father that we voted for.
Okay.
And he's taking care of those things that he promised that he would take care of. And
that's right.
We thank him for his prompt action.
Prompt action, preemptive action, those are the core qualities of good leadership. Dr. TUTU-BOAHENE.
My brother, good evening once again. Good evening to your crew members. And good evening to listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
And to the entire university community.
Perfect.
The weekend has been good. God has been faithful. And we are trusting him, for more wins. We are also looking forward as newly elected executives of UTAG to forge working relationship with our colleagues, lecturers, and with management as well. We believe that the kind of cooperation that was accorded to the current executives will even be better during our time. And we also thank you for this platform Definitely, UTAG is going to benefit, and the entire community is also going to benefit.
Francis Bacho, you are prepare bill ama UTAG ama mai. So the Stations Radio Independent program is Hotspot. Last week, in fact, the few comments we received tells me that, look, the program had really been waited for over a long period of time, and both students and the few faculty are really making me feel that we did a very wonderful work. But it looks like we didn't fully cover the background, so we're going to go back to the background before we launch into the Fourth Republic. And I'm told today we're going to be looking at probably thoroughly education, local government, and if time permits, we'll jump into health, unless you have other areas you want us to look at. Moving on.
Well, what your production team has put together is fine by us, but I believe that as we
move on,
continue with the discussions, one or two issues that need to be chipped in, yes, we will do so.
That is why it is Hotspot.
Sure.
So I guess started with you, Dr. AMANOR. Last week, we really walked through the historical line. Key issues were mentioned. A few things that I guess some of the current generation were not very much aware of were made bare on this very network. Where are we picking it from this very evening?
Oh, thank you once again.
Yeah.
Yes, if my memory serves me right, we ended with SMC2. We attempted to quickly look at Dr. Hilary Liman's government, where we said that Hilary Liman's government was
short-lived.
Yes, short-lived. That Jerry Rawlings did not allow Dr. Hilary Liman to
really settle very well.
Exactly, and the fact that Rawlings was, in fact, Dr. Hilary Liman was told. Rawlings told him that he'll be watching, and if a military man who has ever succeeded with a coup d'etat tells you that I'll be watching you, and you don't take care of him.
But he didn't only say he's watching; say he'll come back.
and that is where I think that the political naivety, for want of a better word, of Dr. Hilary Liman was at play. In that, as president, commander-in-chief of the armed forces, the easiest thing he could have done was to send Jerry Rawlings and his family packing to one of our embassies, maybe send him to Australia, very far from Ghana, send him to the United States, resettle the family there. He's the military attaché to the embassy, and you settle him. So he's out of Africa, he's out of the jurisdiction, so that you have peace of mind to work. These are things that...
But do you think President Rawlings at the time would have agreed to that?
In fact, what I know, what I read, is that offer was made. Other senior ranks accepted it and left.
Probably the reason the skin left?
Yes. And one popular one, in fact, he actually came back to even contest on the ticket of the NDC.
Okay.
You know, I've forgotten the name though.
Is it Boachijan?
Boachijan, yes. Boachijan accepted and left. Rawlings declined the offer. Even the Peugeot car that was given to him, he rejected it. No way he is coming back.
Is it that he's a selfless person?
I think that, you see, at that point, he was too nationalistic, or not too very nationalistic. So he wanted a kind of presidency that would take Ghana at heart, and that was why he sent that signal that I'll be watching and I'll come back.
Okay, let's get back to Dr. AMANOR so that we can move on from that point and look at AFRC had come to bring in Hilary Liman, and then the return was the PNDC. Perfectly.
Yes. But when at your handing over, you are told that I will be watching you, I will come back. And as commander-in-chief, I'm stressing the commander-in-chief.
Perfect.
As commander-in-chief, when you give an order, it must be respected. Simple. So if you allow the Rawlings to disregard an order from the commander-in-chief, a directive from the commander-in-chief, your powers as commander-in-chief those powers are being usurped. And as president, you don't act. The president could have removed him. It would have been done.
I agree with you on one score, but on the other score, I may not want to agree, because this is someone who took power and allowed you to get into position. I guess at that point in time in leadership, you'll be trying to negotiate with him.
Former President Kufuor, when he took over power from Jerry John Rawlings, President Rawlings.
Of course, it was democratically.
Exactly. There was the issue of the 64 Battalion.
Yes.
What did President Kufuor do?
He disbanded.
Exactly. And he spread them across.
No, but that was in the democratic dispensation.
You see, Rawlings afterwards was moving between Ghana, Cuba, Burkina, Togo. So I remember I was a barracks boy at Aflao. He was arrested by Yadima. Yadima sent signals, to
Ghana,
that this guy is planning a coup, and that ammunition is coming from Libya has been intercepted. Liman brought people to take Rawlings, got to Accra and left him.
Well, you can only get this education on radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM. And it is a hot spot. We say that as it is, as researched and with the evidence. So, Dr. AMANOR,
one thing that I want to add, which of course I agree with Dr. AMANOR, is this: the vigilance in government. The Kufuor's issue was as a result of vigilance and also putting his security, where it was supposed to be, protecting the democratic seat that he found himself, because he felt that we've come far. Once we've moved into an era of democracy, there's no need to trade with it. So everything that he has to do, he did it. On the side of Dr. Hilal Liman, he actually downplayed,
the threat of
Rawlings, and felt that Rawlings was his boy, because Rawlings could go to him any day, go and dine with him, and that Rawlings was no longer a threat to his presidency. I got it wrong. In fact, the coup was not against Hilal Liman per se, but against the people around him.
We'll get to that when we start looking at the Fourth Republic, whether the backstop with the president or the persons around the president.
Exactly.
That's an issue that we'll be looking at when it comes to leadership. So let's walk through the PNDC era, now that we are moving out of Dr. Hilal Liman's short-lived Third Republic.
PNP government, yes. So the Third Republic was ousted, and then comes the second coming of JJ. That Jerry Rawlings comes to the scene again, this time with the Provisional National Defense Council, the PNDC. And you listen to the name of the junta, Provisional National Defense Council. The Provisional Council lasted a decade.
Over 11 years.
Over a decade. It tells you that if he had come for the long haul, we don't know when he would have ended. But thanks to democracy. So Jerry Rawlings, his PNDC government comes in at a time where the economy was not doing too well. The economy that he inherited from Dr. Hilal Liman. The economy was not doing too well. Even in Dr. Hilal Liman's government, budget, approval of budget and all, it was a big problem for Dr. Hilal Liman.
What caused it?
Well, he had majority in parliament anyway. In the Third Republican Parliament, he had majority. But there were some disagreements. Some elements in the PMP government wanted real socialism. Others also wanted a moderated one. And we should understand that the PMP had come as an Nkrumah's party. So it has socialist inclinations. And they were divided. Elements wanted real socialism like Nkrumah had and
before.
Others felt that it was time Ghana moved on, that socialism was losing its bite. So there was a need for
a hybrid sort of
between
socialism and capitalism.
And that's diplomacy to to
navigate.
forge that hybrid was what Dr. Hela Liman and his government could not do. And other issues, there were by-elections and all, because that particular republic, he appointed most of his ministers from parliament. What it meant was that we had a presidential system, so there had to be by-elections in their constituencies. So there were lots of issues that...
Hold it there. So that once you were parliamentarian appointed, your seat was vacant.
Once you're appointed and you join the executive, you lose your seat, so to say. You have to make a choice.
I'm surprised I couldn't roll that thing over into the current dispensation. We'll be discussing that when time comes up.
So he had some problems, few problems stabilizing his government, and it went in. And Rawlings comes in. So the economy itself was a problem. Rawlings comes in, and in fact, effectively, it started in 1982 because it was 31st December of 1981. So 1982 he started. 1983 we had major issue in Ghana, drought, and
that is a year that many of us don't want to remember.
Yeah, there was a drought, famine, and coupled with bushfires. So naturally, Ghana, we so much depend on subsistence agriculture, meaning we go and harvest and we come and eat. So it affected Ghana. People were hungry. There was a need for food.
The first time of introduction of yellow corn into Ghana.
Sure. But there is something that we also need to tell ourselves and the young people of Ghana, that around that time, Rawlings and his people, the PNDC, they were shouting socialist chants. To hell with the West, to hell with the Bretton Woods institutions, to hell with the US and UK, to hell with France and all. As they were saying to hell with those things, they were having crisis. And we should also bear in mind that around that time, Nigeria, our big brother, decided to pay us back. During Buzier's time, Buzier's regime, there was a repatriation of foreigners who have been brought to Ghana, who have been invited to Ghana without documentation. So they had to go back. And naturally, many of them were Nigerians. So they had to go back to Nigeria around that time. It didn't please the Nigerian government. And in the 1980s, when we had crisis in Ghana, there were food shortages all over, Nigeria also decided Ghana must go.
Because at the time, I'm sure a lot of teachers especially had moved to Nigeria for greener pastures.
Sure. And I'm told that those days, all you needed to do to get a job was to say that you are a Ghanaian.
That's all.
Me, I have never mixed mortar before. I'll tell them I'm a mason. They'll give you a contract.
Yes.
They believed the Ghanaians so much. So people went there and they were making money. Agege. So
I remember that was Ghana's Nigeria Sansan no good.
Okay. Yeah. Nigerian Sansan no good. So when that happened, lots of Ghanaians migrated to Nigeria, and they were working there, making a living. And the Nigerian government asked those who were not regular migrants, those without documents, to come back to Ghana, and they had to come. They came to meet a young head of state, Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings, whose economy was really lashing him.
Did they just come like that, or they had to send some trailers to go and haul them from Nigeria to Ghana?
In fact, we had to, as the Ghanaian government, will have to help bring our citizens from Nigeria to Ghana. They come, and the housing situation wasn't anything to write home about, and more so, it had to do with food.
That's it.
And Ghana looks around, no
help from
English. Then comes in big brother, Gaddafi. So Gaddafi comes to the aid of Jerry Rawlings with milk powder, with Tom Brown. So, in fact, so that cemented the friendship between Jerry John Rawlings and Muammar al-Gaddafi those days. And that friendship will blossom so much even into the democratic era of Jerry Rawlings, because he saw in him a friend who had come to salvage a situation. He was in dire need of help. And the socialist states that he was aligning himself with, unfortunately, Cuba could not help. Russia could not help. Those days, Poland, those socialist states couldn't offer any help because they themselves were in crisis. So, Rawlings will have to make a profound statement And that statement would change the course of Ghana's history. That is what in political science we call the U-turn of Jerry Rawlings, where he said that it is about time the populist nonsense ceased. So he was calling his own men to order. And in those days...
That is a serious statement to make.
Sure, by a head of state. He realized that depending on the East, depending on the socialist states, was not going to send Ghana anywhere. And Rawlings has sent a delegation to Cuba to consult with Fidel Castro. And Fidel Castro advised that the situation, Ghana is paying dues to the IMF. So you better make use of the IMF. If this could come from a social, in fact, a communist leader, it tells you that they know that at least the IMF and the World Bank, they're able to offer some help. So
is that what brought us PAMSCAD?
Yeah, PAMSCAD came as a result of the implementation of our structural adjustment program. It was the social intervention aspect of PAMSCAD. I believe that Dr. Tutu will
touch on that when he gets there.
Yes. So those days when he asked that the populist nonsense should cease, we shifted gear and we began approaching the West for support. Then the West came with their policies and like we've gone to the IMF now. We went to the IMF for help.
Policies and conditionalities.
Yes, the IMF came.
Where I remember our CD was highly devalued.
Sure. And if this one you brought in, I just remembered that J.H. Mensah, those fourth Republican politics played a major role. J.H. Mensah advised Dr. Kofi Abdul-Buzia against devaluation of the currency. In fact, Buzia devalued the currency in the early 1970s, and that was one of the precipitating factors for the coup. J.H. Mensah advised the then Prime Minister against devaluation, and he said that devaluation might lead to his downfall. He didn't listen to him because there was a Harvard advisory board that had come, Harvard, they had come from the West trying to help him manage the economy. He was rather listening to them. So I said, so
J.H. Mensah.
J.H. Mensah. In fact, J.H. Mensah was Minister for Finance and Economic Planning.
Okay.
But the Prime Minister then decided he didn't want to do away totally with J.H. Mensah. So he decided, he divided the ministry into two. Ministry of Finance, he gave it to J.H. Mensah. And Ministry of Economic Planning, the Prime Minister was now in charge.
Wow.
And they advised him, he devalued the currency and it brought a problem. So now, fast forward to PNDC. So the PNDC, the IMF comes in with a structural adjustment program. And the structural adjustment program, there was supposed to be a phase 1 and a phase 2. The phase 1 was meant to be the phase where there will be the need to stabilize things. Then it will be restructured. So the stabilization phase meant that some harsh policies will be implemented in order for the economy to be stabilized. And those stabilization policies came with hardships. There was a need for retrenchment. So not few people, some people had to go home. Some state-owned enterprises were sold because they were not making profit. So many things happened. And those things that happened was what, at the end of the day, brought the PAMSCAD, because the government realized the need to mitigate the suffering of the ordinary Ghanaian, and the PAMSCAD was introduced. Should I go on, or
we introduced the structural adjustment program issue. So can we get Dr. Tutu to throw a little light on that? We get back for you to continue. Dr. Tutu, so structural adjustment program comes in as an intervention during the 83. How do you call it?
Somewhere in 85.
85, yeah. But of course, it was precipitated by the 83 hunger that took us to Libya. And still, we're not getting out of whatever it takes. And then the profound statement by then President Rawlings that this nonsense must,
the populist
nonsense must cease. Then we have to go to the West for this intervention from the IMF. Walk us through it.
So within that period, I think that I just gone to secondary school from one, and it was interesting. I think we even named our headmaster PAMSCAD.
Oh,
I remember the C. Is it the C something cheese?
Yes.
With these accompanying things that were giving us.
Yes. So I think that was also another bold initiative that Rawlings took. Looking at your own internal, resources and developing your economy around your own resources. So the structure adjustment program, basically, apart from putting certain structures right, the key thing in there was how Ghana was going to, trade on its own resources, to bring its economy or bring hopes to its economy. And that is exactly what Jerry John Rawlings and his men did. And it was an issue of commitment, rather than self-seeking, because within the period, Rawlings had overthrown 2 governments, all right, and it was a challenge to him that if you have taken over from someone, 2 presidents, that you think they were not doing things right, and you have taken over, then what it means is that you must be committed to the cause. So he did that, and within some few, months or so, he has been able to stabilize Ghana's economy. And so the second part of it, which Doc earlier on mentioned, led to issues regarding retrenchments. And retrenchment because there were certain people who, as it were, are too old in the system, and they needed to go for young people to take over. And for productivity purposes, we cannot have or cannot continue to be doing the old things expecting to achieve new results. So what it means is that people who were over 60 years and above, should be heading home. But the other aspect of it was the cost component. I remember they needed to train people who were going home so that at least you go with some skill to go and start something. And in the wisdom of the West, the IMF then thought that beyond government employment, entrepreneurship is key. So you don't go home and sit idle. You go home, create a business, and run it with your family. What in modern entrepreneurship terms we call the family business. All right. So those things came, and that was how we came about tie and dye. We came about, I think there was a kind of soup that the women were making. Yes. I think there was a name. Is it Azuma Blue?
Azuma Blue, the white.
Yes, the white one. They all came, And I remember there was this lady in Kumasi who was into powder manufacturing, soap, pomade, and all that. And her place was a whole industry, very big setup. They got all these things from, And I think that within the period, that was where we got 31st December women movement. So they also took advantage, spotting certain gaps, and knowing that women play an important role when it comes to economic development. So Nana Akufo-Addo and Rawlings came together, mobilized women, around the country, offering them certain training. And that was one of the wings that supported the NDC at its initial stages.
Formation.
Exactly. You see. So that one also was there. And as part of the structure adjustment, I think that there was another thing with regards to literacy, where we have old men and women. They call it the informal education.
So the non-formal education.
Non-formal education, yes. Started around that time. And I think these things came, for certain purposes. Not just because we were going through hardship, but also these were things or structures that can also help Ghana, develop. I think that the third phase has to do with the fence up. Doc, you remember?
Yeah.
Fence up, okay, which has to do with the financial sector adjustment program. And that one was also meant to bring some kind of confidence into the Ghana financial sector, because within the period, there wasn't any confidence, especially when I think in the first term of Rawlings, I think the second term, during the first overthrow, when he had gone into a situation where they had seized people's monies and all that, so the confidence to put money at the bank wasn't there. So Fence Up came in, to restore that kind of confidence. So, but it did well. That program was marvelous, and it actually even helped liberalize Ghana's financial sector to the extent that now people can come together and set up their own bank, But I think that there were some kind of fear in people, so we couldn't have indigenous Ghanaian banks operating more and more apart from Ghana Commercial Bank. But I think that moving into the 90s, when we move into the Fourth Republic, the foundational works of the Fence Up actually encourage people, a lot more people, to come up with. I think that was the time that the rural banking issue started. And then again, people also got the confidence to also put monies together
as cooperatives.
Exactly, as cooperatives, and to set up banks and all that.
Sure. When we get to the Fourth Republic, we're going to look at all these things and how they developed their financial sector. But we're looking at the PNDC era, and I want us to keep the discussions within those places. I can move on there. Now,
but there's one thing that I want to, within the structure economic, program. You see, whatever we are going through now has some implications in the past. And if my memory serves me right, within the structure adjustment program, this program, PAMSCAD, came. And PAMSCAD was one thing that was of very good, or it had a very good effect on secondary school feeding. Because those days, you got yellow corn, we were getting Tom Brown, we were getting cheese.
I remember that cheese very well.
And some even poultry products.
Yeah.
Yes, because on Sundays, you eat mutu with chicken.
That's it.
All right, sometimes with egg. Egg at breakfast. This is what is happening.
In fact, besides the cheese, even in the dining hall, you had your own cans in your dormitory.
Exactly.
As and when you wanted.
Yeah.
You did. We vacated and went home with quite a few cans.
Yes.
You lived well.
No, it was a sweet time, eh? It was really a sweet time.
These are some of the legacies of Rawlings.
Yeah. That was between 84 to 89, thereabout. This radio will be 98.3 FM. Just walking down memory lane. Even as we look at the history of Ghana before the Fourth Republic started. Doc, I'm back to you.
Yeah.
Picking it from where we left off.
Sure. So, the structure adjustment, when it was implemented, that was the time where the Bretton Woods institutions, that's the West, began mounting some pressure on Jerry Rawlings, because we should bear in mind that whenever the West comes to the aid of a dictator, especially in Africa, what happens is that they come with conditionalities. Yeah. And those conditions they came with demanded that Chairman Rawlings opens up the system. They wouldn't come to dump democracy on you, but they will ask you, for purpose of accountability, we need to know how the money is being spent and all. Open up the space for the media. So I remember those days, free press. Some media houses started springing up. because small.
For the prints, that
Yes.
is where it was happening.
Yes. So the media space began opening.
Gradually.
Yes. And thereafter, there was one major thing: local government. Local government, as we have now, the district assembly system, it started with the PNDC of Jerry Rawlings. So when people talk and they don't see anything good that Jerry Rawlings left us, I am surprised. Because the local government architecture we have now, Jerry Rawlings developed it for us. It was under his chairmanship that we have this elaborate system.
Walk us through what the concept really brought to us.
Well, for Jerry Rawlings, when he took over power, there was the CDCs, Citizens Defense Committees, and the CDCs were at the community level.
Okay.
And there was a workers' defense committee. The workers' defense committees at the workplaces, and the citizen defense committees in the communities. So at the workplaces, there was supposed to be people, a group of people, cadres, who will support the revolution.
Okay, so that was for the first phase or the second phase?
No, that one they started right from the beginning, where he wanted to of the PNDC,
because I remember there was a PDC,
People's Defense Committees. Yes,
I think the CDCs were converted to PDCs.
Yes, that's why I want us to get a clarification whether
Okay.
the CDCs were during the AFRC era or it came at the PNDC era.
it came at the PNDC era.
Okay, so maybe they started with the CDCs.
Yes.
Then it got evolved into the PDCs.
People's Defense Committees. So the People's Defense Committees and the Workers' Defense Committees, those were the committees that were to ensure that the revolution sank in well with the people of Ghana. So at the workplace and in the communities, they were supposed to be policing the revolution. Then we had the Citizens Vetting Committees. Now, they were to serve as a pseudo-judicial systems, because one of the issues they came up with was that of corruption, that there have been lots of corruption in Ghana, and they came to root out corruption. So people who were accused of being corrupt, they will be taken to, not to the regular court, but they'll be taken to these committees where your own peers will be empaneled to look into it, to investigate. After investigation, they will come out with a sentence. And if the sentence meant that they confiscate your assets, they will do so. If it meant that you go free, they will do so. But that was so he did that, and he wanted, Rawlings was talking about grassroots participation. He had some passion for the people.
Getting everybody to be part of
Getting
governance.
everybody involved. Everybody should be part of the process, should be part of the revolution. Then came the idea of a local government infrastructure, a local government system, where power, he said, will belong to the people. Power should not belong to leadership, but power should belong to the people. Power to the people.
I remember that slogan very well. Each
Sure.
time we climbed the Pence Goa, it was a power to the people.
Exactly. So that was the rhetoric, the power to the people. You and I know that power, we give power to leadership. So power to the people, then comes the local government architecture that we have. In fact, it has been one of the greatest benefits
Assets.
that we've had from Jerry John Rawlings, a legacy that I believe will stay on. Governments will come, governments will go, but they will only seek to modify it, because we have a system that, if we are really serious with it, I think our development will be going so fast. But unfortunately, we complain about funds. The District Assembly's Common Fund doesn't reach them early. It comes in late and it's too little. Many other issues. So the local government system came in. And that local government system was where, at the grassroots, there will be the unit committees. And from the unit committee level, where people elect their own representatives to talk for them at the community level. If I'm not even below the community level, small areas where they will elect leaders, councillors. Then the councillors at the district level, there is the district assembly proper, where they will have oversight responsibility
Of all
over
the units.
of all the units. And so this was the elaborate structure that J.J. Rawlings and the PNDC left for us in terms of local government?
It looks like we're not mentioning personalities here, persons that spearheaded it.
Oh, because we don't want a situation where people
will start taking glory. Perfectly.
So as for the leaders, well, if we need to mention them, we will.
No, sure. Let's go on.
So we have this local government system that. Well, so at the grassroots level, then we have the district. At the district level, we have now we have the metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies.
I think that for the purposes of education, names should be mentioned.
Okay.
Because I know that certain individuals
play some vital role.
Not some. They played major roles.
You know, when we were talking about this structural adjustment thing, the name that came into mind was Kwesi Botwe.
Exactly.
Sure.
Because I was expecting that
he actually led the fence up thing
perfectly,
and he did it so perfectly. I mean, one of the finest finance ministers Ghana has ever produced. You know,
yeah, so I think that, rest in peace.
Exactly. So I think that some of these names
must come up.
But we cannot talk about local government
without calling a voice.
Also, that yes, Kwame Nahoy. So Kwame Nahoy, in fact, he has written a book on local government in Ghana.
Okay.
I think Nana Tuata did his whole PhD
on that book.
Exactly.
Wow.
A nice book.
So it was a basic, my basic text for when I was teaching local government in Ghana. So students, well, it's been a while I taught that course. So, so yes. So Kwame Nahoy, in fact, local government in Ghana is more or less his baby. They nurtured, he nurtured it with his team, and the kind of infrastructure we have for our the architecture we have for our local government system, he cannot be taken out. And once in a while, these are the people. Unfortunately, because we usually want to remain politically neutral, as a university, for instance, we can bring him one day for a lecture. He has rich experience. He doesn't need to have a PhD. We just need his expertise because he knows the inside and the outside, everything about local government in Ghana. So maybe political science department and business school. You also teach administration, public administration.
I think one of them is a professor.
Yes.
One of the boys.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think that he did marvelous work on
local governance.
Yeah. And bringing him here to
for a public lecture.
I think that as a university, you see, some of these professional courses that we have, various faculties should think of having what we call
faculty days.
No, professional forums.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Where, you know, a week or a month, we can invite one personality with in-depth knowledge in a particular area of study, so that the person comes meet students.
98.3
final year students at the undergraduate and master's level or research graduate levels, so that they interact with those people. I think that when I was at the University of Ghana doing my master's program, we used to have a course, we registered for it, Practitioners Forum. And that was where I met Mpiani for the first time. Where he came, he was always coming. The whole semester, he was constant. And other personalities were coming. I met the owner of Pioneer News.
Okay. Prekwa Papa.
Yeah, Prekwa Papa. No, he came and shared his story. You know.
So that would be like taking the gown to town, or town coming to the gown.
Yes. I think we need some of these interactions.
All right. I mean, these are things that fall out when we come to programs such as this one. So let's walk. We were talking about the local government system that was created by the PNDC era and galvanized, how do we call it, grassroots participation in governance.
Yes. But I think one thing that the PNDC, the vision that the President Rawlings, then Chairman Rawlings, had was to create a local government system that was non-partisan. In fact, you and I, we know that now it has become partisan, but he saw a local government system where we talk about our needs. And our needs as a community, as a society, has nothing to do with blue color or with green color. It has everything to do with us as a people. And that was the system that he wanted to create for our local government. Unfortunately, the brilliant ideas that he had in not making it partisan, at the end of the day, political parties, these two major political parties, they found their way to our local government system.
One of which was his baby.
Exactly. And we should also mention that J. Kufuor once served as a deputy secretary for local government under J.J. Rawlings.
Yeah.
So what changed?
So issues of tradition.
Yes. Wow. And that is where our young people, test contain, should learn that there is a need for apprenticeship. There is a need that they learn. The Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who is president now, went through the mill. His Excellency John Mahama started. He even started from the lowest level.
Assemblyman.
Yes. J. Kufuor went through the mill. President Rawlings himself, well, he plunged himself into power with the AFRC from the beginning, but he also had a learning process. So,
but Rawlings was part of the Nkrumah's young pioneers.
Yeah.
So he also got some indoctrination from that point.
Exactly.
And Nana Akufo-Addo himself was a member of the Young Pioneers.
Wow. This is history for you. You can't get it anywhere but on Radio Windy 98.3 FM. And the program is for sport.
I think that with the issue of the
participation in local governance.
Yeah, the local governance system. You see, the structure itself was perfect. Now, when you trace its roots from the PNDC era, with this issue of the PDCs, where they shout PDC, then they respond power to the people, you realize that these were good structures that if we had not influenced it with any partisan political, inclinations, then what it means is that, like, we wouldn't be sitting here, thinking about corruption and how to deal with corruption. Now, if you live in a society where you are corrupt, your own people report you, they give you up. You are tried by your own people.
But you cannot tell a lie.
You can't tell a lie. Witnesses are there. So, going for Sakawa and all those things, people know you, and they can pinpoint to certain facts. If you are not doing a decent business, people can see it. So, that structure in itself was a self-check, a kind of check and balances that could give people up and even shape people ethically, And if you find yourself in an organization working, you have no other option but to behave professional. So these were things that were necessary for our development. Unfortunately, going into 1992, exiting into, democratic rule, all these structures were given up. And we saw that what was not meant to be partisan has actually taken on colors. And it has remained with us until today.
And we want to even legitimize it.
The issue of legitimacy, to me, is an eyesore.
When we get to the Fourth Republic, I'm sure we'll be discussing this nitty-gritties. But you see, it might be an eyesore though, but that is what the reality is. So why don't we open it up?
Yeah, so it takes a committed government to reset the agenda.
System reset.
Yeah.
On that note, we're going for a quick break. When we come back, we will delve deep into the issues again.
Radio Windy Bay 98.3 MHz brings to you an informative and educative program, My Department. My Department highlights the activities of the various departments in the University of Education, Winneba. This program brings to you various segments which include interview with the HODs, roundtable discussions with some lecturers, and the student corner, where we will interact with some student leaders, not leaving your take, a time where the phone lines will be activated for your calls, comments, and concerns. My Department indeed is a must listen to program. Tune in to Radio Windy Bay 98.3 MHz this and every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. and let's take a stroll through the various departments on campus.
Everybody's looking for that something.
Love is patient. Love is kind.
The wait is over. The long wait is over. Hotspot is back on Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM on every Tuesday between 7:30 and 10 p.m. I'm sure you really want to be part of this intellectual discourse, devoid of political coloration. I mean, partisan political coloration. The producers are there to do the fact checking of everything that you say, and you are sure to be crossfired. If you don't give us the facts, others will supply the facts. I know you don't want to miss it. Catch us on Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM, and you are there to be part of this very discourse. Meet me there, your regular host, Collins KOFI AWUKU.
This is Radio Windy Bay, Windy Bay 98.3 FM.
The wait is over. The long wait is over. Hotspot is back on Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM on every Tuesday between 7:30 and 10 p.m. I'm sure you really want to be part of this intellectual discourse, devoid of political coloration. I mean, partisan political coloration. The producers are there to do the fact checking of everything that you say, and you are sure to be crossfired. If you don't give us the facts, others will supply the facts. I know you don't want to miss it. Catch us on Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM, and you are there to be part of this very discourse. Meet me there, your regular host.
158 or contact us on 050-3923-158 or 033-2320-201 or 033-2322-499. You can listen to us on our website www.uaw.edu.gh. Radio Windy Bay, the ultimate in-campus radio.
Surely we are the ultimate in campus radio, and I'm sure no one is taking that one away from us. This program is Hotspot, and it's being ably produced by Felix Amukwedu, Francis Styles Bole, and Bright Fuga. The technical support is coming from Osman Mumune, the multimedia team, Bismarck Ampon, Caesar Abraham, Benedict Techi, Emmanuel Pabite, Andy Hammond, and of course Samuel Kojo Enyan. They are making everything possible so that we will be viewed online via YouTube, Facebook, and of course you are getting us live. I want to say a very big thank you to A.B. Geni, who's also supporting the technical team. Yes, Dr. TUTU-BOAHENE, you said we missed something out. Can we quickly get to that one, then we can jump straight over to education within that period that the PNDC wasn't on the seat?
Yes, I thought that we are going to refresh our minds on the 1982 African Cup of Nations in Libya.
Wow. That introduced Abedi Pele.
Yes. In fact, it is one of the legacies of Jerry John Rawlings.
So we'll look at sports and what he did for sports.
Exactly. You know, he was the brain behind Azuma Nelson's victories. And Ghana hockey team. You know, so in 1982, when Ghana was even struggling to put a team together for the African Cup of Nations, even though we have qualified, through the benevolence of Gaddafi, Ghana was able to participate. And we got there, and Rawlings told Gaddafi that his boys are going to win the Cup of Nations. And it was such an easy walk, for the Ghana Blasters. And I think you mentioned Abedi Pele. Yes, he was on the bench.
Because I know he was the youngest to have been introduced into the team at the
I think
time.
at the age of 16 or something.
And his shots was virtually at the knee.
Yeah. So we went in, and Ghana did so well, and finally lifted the cup and brought it home. And I think after 1982,
we are yet to see the cup. We came so close to it.
Yeah.
So when you listen carefully, I think that he sent a message, some particular message, and told the boys that Ghanaians are with them. We are watching. Our spirits are behind them, and that all that we need is that they should bring the cup home, and that they can do Ghana the honors of bringing the cup. I mean, these words are words that can only motivate. It wasn't an issue of money, as
has become now.
It has become now that players will even negotiate
how much they will take for appearance and what have you.
You understand?
Well, but I want to say that the game has also evolved over a period and it has now become a monetized game.
So when you find yourself in national colors, it's a different thing. Now, when you look at other nationals and playing for their countries,
they virtually sacrifice.
Yes, to the extent that even what is given them, they go back and give it to charities. The other World Cup, which was staged in Brazil, where Ghana,
airlifted money to Brazil.
Yes. The Germans won that cup. And they built a whole, a village. When they finished, they donated it to Brazil.
Yeah. For the Germans, I would say that they had a foresight. So instead of going to probably rent places there, they decided to look, we know ourselves.
Exactly.
Let's build.
Exactly. And even the money that were given to the players individually, what they got, the nation gave to them. Most of them donated to charities in Brazil and to certain South American countries.
Well, Ghana will be coming to that one day. Who knows?
Yes, and the issue of Azuma Nelson. Yes. I've listened to a number of interviews by Azuma Nelson, and every time he has never stopped mentioning Jerry John Rawlings. As somebody,
a Bukum boy.
Yes, who motivated him. And Rawlings himself was a boxer. Yeah. He motivated him, encouraged him, provided for him, at every fight. And at every fight, he will go and say goodbye to Rawlings before he
leaves.
And these are some of the, legacies that, you see, it is not just being a leader. For me, Rawlings was not just a servant leader, but he was that person who actually lived for the people of Ghana. You see, we talk of Nkrumah, excellent leader, selfless leader, a visionary. But for me, after Nkrumah comes Rawlings.
After Nkrumah comes Rawlings. So we look at the educational successes of Nkrumah. Now we are viewing the PNDC era, the decade plus one, probably.
Yeah.
Can we delve into the educational records of that era?
Okay. Thank you so much. And for education and what then Chairman Jerry John Rawlings brought, there had been education reforms in education sector since Nkrumah's era. Nkrumah's era brought in free basic education. Then there was a 7-year development plan that was supposed to ensure that there was free there was free education up to the secondary level. So education was supposed to be free, progressively free during increments time, and it became compulsory, a matter of free and compulsory. Now, we moved to that to serve as a background. Now, coming to the J.J. Rawlings with the PNDC, I think it was in 1987 that there was a reform. So a committee, I think 1987. There was
Is that the Jamba committee?
In fact,
we've lost track of it. Right?
Yes, but there was one.
I'm sure.
I'm from committee or something. In fact, I've lost track of that one.
Okay.
But there was that committee that recommended the JHS system.
Okay.
Where we will reduce the number of years that we spent in school instead of spending 6 years primary, 4 years middle school, going to 5 years of secondary, then
and
2 years of
sixth
form. So many years. So Jerry Rawlings sought to reduce the number of years that we spent in school. So now we'll have the 6 years of basic school, then
3 years.
3 years of junior secondary school, then 3 years of senior secondary school, straight to the university. So the A level, in fact, the 7 years of O level and A level
was compressed
into 3 years. And the 4 years of middle school had also been compressed into 3 years of JSS. But for the primary, the 6 years was left. And it wasn't just the number of years that was cut, but what was supposed to go into the 3 years of JSS and the 3 years of SHS. Those days SSS. Now for the 3 years, I went to the JSS, and I remember we had a workshop that was functioning. Mr. Duke of blessed memory, he taught me technical drawing and technical skills. So he will bring saw and show us this is a tenon saw, this is crosscut saw. We saw the chisel, their names and all. We saw those things. We had a workshop that was built, even though it wasn't stocked to capacity, but at least we had those tools in a box that we could see, we could handle 1 or 2 of them. So it was supposed to train us in some of these things. And I tell you, at home, I fix locks, some basic things, because I was taught those ones in the JSS.
What the Europeans would say, do it yourself.
Good. So some of those things, fix it yourself. We're able to do these things. But it was supposed to now transition the Ghanaian from being trained in grammar to being trained with some vocational skills. And in fact, when you look at societies that have developed, they had plans. In societies like Germany, they lay emphasis on technical training. So they have technical universities. They are purely technical. Like we are mimicking in Ghana here, we also have technical universities. I hope the technical universities will not start reading political science and French and those courses, but they will really do the technical courses, because that was supposed to train our hands, so that from the JSS, if you are good with the technical, you move straight into a technical school, secondary school technical. Or if you are good with the vocational skills, I learned bead making. So I could make, even now I can make beads. So bead making, you can move straight into a vocational school, so that we train those who are good with the grammar and with the maths, let them go to the regular secondary school. So those are the things. But it got to a time that as we were losing focus, we felt that those who were not good, or those who go to technical schools, my mates who went to technical schools, if I know that Nana Safwa will not be angry with me, Paul Safwa, one of my mates, JHS mates, Frank, he has sent me a message that he is really watching us on Facebook.
We are grateful you watching. Your comments can come and we'll read it for you, dear.
Yes, and Oponza was gifted with technical drawing, and Safwa was technical person. He went to St. Paul's Technical School in Kugentumi, and he worked with a mining company. And look at him working with a mining company. Look at me, grammar. Look at me now. So it tells you, if we had paid attention to the technical aspects, things would have been okay. I think Dr. Tu just reminded me that Evans Anfong Committee came up with the JHS system in 1987. So the SS and the GSS system was introduced by this committee, Evans Amfum Committee, that was supposed to help us build the manpower that we need. 2-month grammar doesn't solve many problems. What solves the problem is people, the blue-collar job, people who have the technical know-how. And if you look at Ghana, that is where we are suffering. Much of our problem, we have problems because we have shifted attention to the white-collar jobs, and we have left the blue-collar job that transform economies. We should concentrate on agriculture. As a Manchester Secondary School, in fact, I was born on that campus. My father used to teach there. He's now retired. It was an agric secondary school. That secondary school was noted for agriculture. In those days, I remember there were tractors, there are power tillers, there are plows. They were giving those machineries. Today, it is not like that.
Wow.
So are we serious? If you have a chunk of your population involved in agriculture, but the number of agricultural schools are reducing, it tells us that we are losing focus. So that was the kind of vision that J.J. Rawlings had with the introduction of the JSS and the SSS system, that we will not concentrate just on the competencies in grammar, but we will also train people to be able to work. Yes. And these were the things that we were supposed to build upon. Unfortunately, we have not been able to build upon. So for J.J. Rawlings, that has been the greatest legacy he left the educational sector. The reduction in the number of years that we spent in school, and the introduction of the technical and the vocational aspect to education. Those were the legacies that J.J. Rawlings under the PNDC
Could that also stem from the fact that he himself was someone who was very practical? Because his history has it that he even converted, cabin seats into his sofa and what have you.
Yes.
Could that be some of the things that informed him into doing that?
I want to believe so. And being a military person, they are trained all round. And I believe that also contributed to his love for those things. We know that Rawlings wasn't an office person. He was someone who wanted to be on the field. He wanted, even as president in the Fourth Republic, he descended into gutters once a while. He would dive into...
In fact, he was carrying cocoa beans.
Yes.
And fixing rail lines.
Those were the things that Rawlings did. And with his education, the reform that he sought to bring, I believe he wanted to bring some change into Ghana in order to help us move our development forward.
So from the reduction in the number of years, I'm sure we saw this F cube with a small f. Was that within the PNDC era, or it went into the the earlier part of the Fourth Republic?
That was the PNDC era. That started in 1987.
Okay. Walk us through what that F cube also meant for us, since we are focusing on education.
So the whole Evans Amfum Committee was charged with 3 key,
objectives or terms of references.
Yes, to ensure that they come up with a blueprint that will define the quality of education, and also to make basic education free and compulsory, and the third, to reduce the length of education.
Okay.
So that's where we got the 6334.
All right.
6 years primary,
3
years GHS, 3 years secondary school, and then 4 years university. That's the first degree. And so that was what they came up with. And you see, the concept at the basic level was to train Ghana's manpower needs. And that meant that you start from the primary school to the JHS. By the time you get there and you complete, even if you don't want to continue to secondary school,
you can do something for yourself.
You can do something. Some skilled, entrepreneurial, abilities, you acquire them. So that was why they came up with this JHS concept. JHS concept. Those days it was
JSS.
JSS.
Yes.
So junior secondary school.
In fact, we call them JUSEX.
So at that time, the training was this. They train you on certain vocational skill jobs, calabash making, dress making, graphic designs, concrete works, technical, drawings and this those who draw plans for houses.
Yeah.
So all these things were there, and in fact, we that was the reason for 3-year education, post-secondary education.
Yeah.
All right, so teachers were trained for those purposes, and I was fortunate to be, one of them.
Type 6.
Yes,
So you are stroke.
Yes, I am a trained teacher.
Stroke 9.5.
No, yes, I think I'm stroke 9.6.
9.6. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr.
AMANOR, don't look at me, you.
Myself and Professor Sapon, we attended the same training college.
Yeah.
I think he was about 2 years ahead of me. So we did that, and the essence was that you go out there to train people. So if you were trained at the training college as a vocational teacher with a specialization in calabash, you go and teach calabash. If it is about carving, you go and teach carving. But the other aspect of it, the reality that we faced when we went out, we passed out, was that we get to certain schools.
They don't do those things.
You don't even have the workshops. You don't have the tools.
So it implies that this challenge of posting teachers to the appropriate locations has been a challenge not in recent times.
No, not in recent times. I mean, from day one. And that is why we say that, when it comes to planning, Ghanaians are best. By implementation, we are near to zero.
Is it because our educational officers or the persons that are put in place to execute these plans do not understand, or it is just attitude?
The way we approach politics, the way we approach policies. Last week, I was saying something about the implementations of our policies. Yeah. You see, when you don't have enough resources, you don't just get up at once, to do the extraordinary. We are talking about Buzia's experimentation with the junior secondary school concept. So he started from district capitals. So within a region, we could get about 3 of them. Now, when this FQ concept started, all middle schools were turned into GSS. You see.
And they couldn't compete with the old existing GSSs.
They didn't even have teachers. So when this whole concept of 1985 started, 1987, that was when they started training teachers, somewhere in 1988 or 90, upwards. So when we even got there, the concept is that if a particular school is going to specialize in, let's say, clay works.
That's pottery.
It means that you should have a whole structure for them. From the very beginning to the end, the process. And you should have all the facilities that they will need. We got there, we didn't find it. We have been trained. We got there, we didn't see it. I did carving and calabash with some graphic design minors. I got in there, and I was the only person who had a tool for carving. All right. For calabash, yes, of course, you can
easily get that they can just coop and do things.
Yeah. But the other materials, you can't easily get them. So how do you even teach students how to carve? It's impossible.
So the interests of the students were there, but the materials and tools to make them deliver wasn't.
They see me doing it, and if you give it to them, I remember.
Struggle.
Yes, my class they were about 40 something. So just one set of tools for everybody.
It wouldn't work out.
It's not possible. So I had no option but to move into catering.
That I've not been trained for.
No. I've not been trained for, so I have to go and buy books and read. And on the basis that in the village every student can cook.
No. I mean, this is a serious aspect of our policy implementation, and I think we need to spend a little time on it.
You see, policy. I think that we should devote a whole week, a whole month for policy. Now, you see, even under the Fourth Republic, look at the way they are handling policies.
We will come there.
So, this whole thing didn't start today. All right.
So is it that we are not learning from history?
Yes. To me, our inability to let the past guide us is one thing. The commitment is another thing. The fact that we are also not planning well is also another thing. See, because Buzia could plan, and their students were so good. Rollins came and introduced everybody to it. And you realize that we were not just prepared for it. At least, the committee could have suggested to the regime that let's pick it from the district to the region. You see, where I was posted to, the first day I got to the village, I cried. I've lived all my life in Accra. Then I'm posted to a village, a typical village. And
you reminded some of us of our stories.
You see, what brought out the tears was that I had sat at the corridor for some hours, and I'd forgotten that I was in the village. So when night came, I entered the room, and I was just looking for the switch to bring out the lights. So then something struck me and said,
it's a different environment.
I just started crying. So I just have to go for my lantern. Now, asking whether I could get kerosene to light my room.
So you are not planning how to survive the place?
No. You see,
those are life experiences.
Yes.
But I'm sure you learned a lot from the place before you left.
In fact, it actually changed my perspective about life. That was when I got to know that life is not about Accra. It's not about luxury. Life is not.
I guess one of these days I also have to tell my story.
Yes. I mean, some of these things, you see, we need to share. I do share some of these things in class. Sometimes students look at me and they are saying, "You, how? It's not possible." If I tell my students that I've been selling foods from 1990, they doubt it. They doubt it. They don't really understand why I'm saying all these things.
Well, my short one is that in '95 I got posted to a village beyond Ho. If you get to Professor Mao Sidake's hometown, which is Ziavi, Lume, you would walk 1 hour 30 minutes. I mean, brisk walk. In the dry seasons, you go to wait for water to yield, then you will fetch. It's milky. You have to get some alum into it. And this is someone who has schooled in Accra his whole life, even teacher training in Accra. Then one day, pam. But you see, I found joy. I found joy. Well, that'll be a story for another time.
I'll also tell my story.
Maybe give us a brief.
Oh, wait, another time.
We want a brief. Then we can continue from that point. Producer, we have some messages up. So we still on the education thing now. We realize that our policy designers and implementers seem to be at variance.
Yes. And you see, in a developing country like ours, where we don't have the luxury of resources, in fact, no, that would be an understatement. I think we have the resources, but
effective use of it.
Yes, effective use of resources. That is our problem. That you have a JHS system. Every district
had.
Yes. And I remember the Science Resource Center thing, that they clustered schools and they'll give them one Science Resource Center.
With a bus.
With a bus. So the bus will go and convey students from their schools to the labs for their science. JHS system. I think something like that is clicking. That I think that was it. Because in my school where I attended my JSS, Asamankese Enum Local Authority JSS, we had the lab, we had the workshop built. But there was a school closer, Enum Presby. Enum Presby had no workshop. Then some other school, they didn't have workshops. So I think that
was the concept.
Yes, that's when it is time for technical skills, technical drawing, then they will come. Because we are in the same cluster, they will come to the.
Of course, those times they built the school like a rectangular thing. You have this stream there, this stream there, that.
Yeah. So that was the plan. But you see, because we are unable to implement, in fact, Ghana, our major problem is implementation. Wonderful plans. When we decide maybe one day talking about the Nkrumah 7-year development plan. All these things, they are all there. Wow. And the problem we had in those days was a matter of implementation. The corruption issue also comes in. That too. And I remember there was a tool set. Just
that was a box.
Yes. And even for the students, we had a tool set, some very small. That you could even slip into your pocket. Wow. It had a hammer, it had something like that. So those were the things that we were supposed to have in order to help us learn like hands-on with the technical skills. If we cluster them, why not? We could cluster them. Then schools around will go there when they have technical skills. We'll make use of the lab because the lab,
a resource center.
Exactly. The lab did not belong to Enum LA, my former school. It belonged to the government. But because we couldn't stock the workshop itself, it was a problem. So it became a place where break time we'll go and we'll go and eat. That was and the bench. In fact, we had the benches.
And could it also be that some educational administrators were scared of accounting for the tools, so do not even allow the pupils to use it?
No, it wasn't that. You see.
Because it looks like some people also just lock the tools in their offices.
Earlier on, I was trying to make that point, but I skipped it. You see, as Dr. AMANOR is saying, that should have been an ideal situation.
Okay.
But that wasn't the plan.
What it was.
You see, so earlier on, I was trying to make the point that the committee, the AMFOM committee, should have proposed to the government that, okay, let's have, for instance, every, let's say within certain radius, let's have these facilities there. So within that spot, we will have the science lab, we have the technical lab, we have the vocational lab, everything, those things are there. So that every
instructors are
there, housed, so that the schools will be coming in turns. So let's say Monday, these schools are coming. So you have the whole place for yourselves. The following week, the following day, another set of schools are coming. So that they come and have first-hand feel of
things.
You see, because like by now, even this pot, they surfing pots. Ayua.
Yeah. Earthenware bowls.
Yes. Like by now, these people could have mastered it and have taken it to the international markets. But what have we seen? When it comes to issues of agriculture, those of my mates who were trained in agric, some are now using it for their personal, and the students didn't benefit. Why? Because they got in there. The facilities that they need is not there. And teachers are so tight that we cannot even do anything to help. When they talk of improvisation, but to what extent can we do that?
There's a limit to improvisation.
You understand? So when you have teachers who want to help, who want to do something, to leave a legacy. And what will push them to that level is not there. What do you do? So for me, it's still an issue of governance, an issue of leadership, issues relating to inabilities of our leaders and our governments, to have that kind of foresight and to plan and make sure that some of these policies succeed and to the benefit of us all.
All right, let's look at things from this angle. Is it that the technocrats get subsumed by the politicians to the extent that they don't want to offend the politicians? That resulted in Rawlings having the system at that time being what it was?
You see, for me, Rawlings himself had a limit. And his limit was, education. He was a sixth former.
Okay.
All right. So when it comes to issues of education and to what would be his scope, with this
I'm sure that's why he had the technocrats around him.
Yes. I see some of these technocrats also didn't understand what they were doing. You see,
But that would be injurious to the state then.
Yes. So most often I keep saying that, you see, where we find ourselves, yes, of course, you have this category of leaders leading us, dropouts. If you have watched carefully, most of our leaders, from Nkrumah's era up to the present.
But Nkrumah was not a dropout.
Oh. You see, I don't want us to go into the, how do you call it?
The nitty-gritties.
Yes, of Nkrumah's education. Nkrumah, even at the university, he didn't complete.
Because of your activism.
But he was exposed to certain ideologies. Good. All right. And he has gone through a lot of things. Not that, but what, to me, I don't want us to go there. But
no. I mean, this hotspot, we say it as it is.
Yes, but you see, he didn't even finish his first degree. Or see. And even to the point that even his supervisor gave a damning comment about him.
Okay.
When I think he was referring him to one other professor. And said that this is my student, but he's not too good as you expect him to be good.
Now,
see,
could it be that
I am making this point?
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I'm just want, I want us to know the basis for the comment. That was it because of his Africanism activities?
For Nkrumah, even as a teacher, he performed his job. All right. Yes, but I think that when he got up there, it was as a result of the activities that he was into, the political activities. So much of it. All right. So those things probably took the better part of him, as against the comment that his professor made. Right. So that's why I'm saying that I don't want that, because it's a whole analysis probably we need to to understand some of
from
things.
where I said, I might think that the whites are the way because it was in a white land.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And probably they realized that where this guy was going to, he was going to start taking bread off their table.
No, obviously, for him, he was not even perturbed.
That's it.
But whatever was happening around him, I think he has.
He had a goal.
Yes, and that was what he was.
So this is not to say that he was daft.
No. That is not the point.
Perfect.
That is his dropout is not to say that
he was
daft.
Perfectly.
Yes.
Perfectly said.
Yeah. But as I'm saying, when you look at the kind of leaders, I mean, the ministerial appointments and all those, you see that it appears that there's a kind of trend. True. And most of them appears to be dropouts. I did certain survey for the 2016 parliament.
Okay.
The number of PhDs there were under 1%. all right, people with PhDs in parliament. Probably somebody will say you don't need a PhD to be a parliamentarian. I understand. You may also not need a first degree to be a member of parliament. I understand. But you see, when you look at the current trend of governance, and when you look at certain documentations, certain negotiations that will come to your table, and the interpretation depends on your ability to learn and understand, then of course you understand where we are going.
Yeah, but I'm sure we have the technocrats who are supposed to be advising us on some of those negotiations.
You see, boss, this is the point.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's how we open it up for interrogation.
When we are talking at our level, all right, we understand ourselves. The moment he starts talking, I know where he's heading.
Yeah.
And I know where he's going to end. So sometimes when Dr. AMANOR is speaking, I chip in because I know the direction he's going. Somebody may be listening to us, and every word that we have pronounced, he doesn't understand it. So yes, the technocrat will understand the language. You expect him to speak to your language. Yes, he's doing that, but the interpretations to it, you don't get it. How do you go and do the implementation? That is the point. That is the point. So what will seem ordinary to the technocrat, it will be a complicated situation. And that is why we have a host of ministers going to conferences. And they end up sleeping in their hotel rooms and coming back with nothing. Now, you see, this whole concept of the FQ, excellent. But if you were somebody who had gone through the academic, ladder, and you understand what it takes to develop quality education, when they give it to you for implementation, you understand exactly the direction and move. That one is different from somebody sitting you down to teach you, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. You get it?
Then have we failed ourselves as a nation?
Oh, to me, yes. Because you see, the way we are politicking. Yes. We are politicking our way through democracy. It's not anything that will help us unless we decide to chart a good path for ourselves.
Dr. AMANOR LATEY.
Well,
here we are.
The unfortunate Ghanaian situation. Dr. Tutu made a point. It is not that we lack ideas. It is not that we are bereft of people with the competencies to implement such policies.
Square pegs, round holes.
Exactly. We have a system. We have created a system for ourselves where we glorify things that need to be condemned. Talking about the GHS system and the SS system. Currently, let us look at, I know we'll come to the Fourth Republic, but let's look at how postings are even done. I have had students who completed this university. They are trained teachers. They have written their licentiate exams. They have passed. They have everything required to teach. But before they will be appointed, they will have to pay. Someone who is not too good but has the money will pay. And when we are having conversation as colleagues, I tell them that I fear for this country and for our future. My fear stems from the fact that, let us look at the caliber of students. There are some excellent ones we are teaching. Let us look at some of the longest Cs we are marking. That person is going to teach my son in some few years' time. And that is the manpower of this country. So in 20 years' time, our products would have trained the leaders for Ghana. What kind of leaders are we anticipating that in 20 years' time, when I'm enjoying my retirement, when I read the newspapers, what will I be reading? Those are the things that when I think of, then I am not pessimistic. I'm very optimistic, but I think that we need to revisit the plans we had. That if you look at the Asian tigers, they had plans.
Long term.
Exactly. This morning I was talking to a sister station in, I think, Takoradi, and they were asking about planning. I'm happy the media, you are setting the agenda right. They're asking about planning. And I told them, when you go to United Arab Emirates, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, they know that oil will get depleted one day. They are planning 100 years. They have plans for 100 years. Ghana, we have plans for 4 years. What does it tell you? Our system is failing. It is failing.
But Kwame Nkrumah, in his era, planned for a very long time.
So as for Kwame Nkrumah, that is what in Akan they say yenya also. I don't think that in a modern era we have had any leader yet who thinks like Nkrumah.
Did Rollins do some 2040 something or 2030?
I think Rollins Vision 2020.
2020, yes.
Yes. He had Vision 2020, but when he left office in 2000,
It was thrown
what
away.
happened? A new government comes, the MPP, and they also come with their own. Then Professor Mills comes, that's his own. We have Nanado, His Excellency, now doing his own. And last week we mentioned this, that when Professor Mills commissioned the Constitutional Review Committee, and they came out with the report, they made a recommendation. Their recommendation was that we should have a very long-term development plan that cannot be altered by politicians. The government of the day said no.
No way.
What does it tell you? At times, I get so passionate and emotional about this. What it tells us simply is that we don't have people who love Ghana enough in power. I say it without any apology, because things that are happening now
Reflects it.
It's a reflection of the fact that the people we have elected for ourselves, they don't have our interests at heart. How can, well, I know we'll come to the Fourth Republic, but let's give examples for the Fourth Republic. How can there be an investment? You cut down trees and you plant trees. Does it make sense? Under John Mahama, His Excellency. Now, we find monies so much in the minister's home.
When there is a bank.
When there are banks. Dollars in millions. Man, that money. And the president makes a statement, an unfortunate statement, that you know she will come out clean. What kind of a system are we living for our children? This is the Ghana we have inherited. But this is not the Ghana that Nkrumah left. The Ghana that Buzia suffered to leave. The Ghana that Jerry Rawlings as a revolutionary person left. That is not the Ghana we are seeing in the Fourth Republic. Rawlings could carry bags of cocoa himself on his back as head of state. Then he was head of state too.
Whole university students into the bush.
Exactly.
Let's go and do.
That was leadership.
Now Conway Moose and the whole presidential chair
It's in one car.
We have lost it. In societies, there have been videos on social media where an African student is working with the prime minister of a host country, and she's so excited. Why is she excited? It will never happen in Africa.
Boris, what's the name?
Well, I'm sure our listeners, some may want to get in. Pardon us, we didn't announce the phone lines early enough, but you still could do if you want us to if you want to join the discussion that is ongoing here. We only are looking at the history before the Fourth Republic, things that happened there that were good that we seem to have lost sight of, things that we think we could have done better before the Fourth Republic took off. And you can join us on 050-392-3158. 050-392-3158. Same number for WhatsApp. Of course, if you're on the Facebook page, just type your comments there. We will read it, and our guest in the studio will react to it. Please talk to the issue, nothing outside the issue. Thank you, man. In the next about 12 minutes, we calling it down. It looks like the 2 hours seems to be too small for us.
It's because Ghana, we are so passionate about this country that we cannot afford but talk about Ghana. Because things, I am not too old, but the things that I was seeing on TV as a young person and the things that we are seeing on TV now, I think that things are deteriorating. Because in the 1950s, one course that I taught some years ago, Political Economy of Ghana, that there was a statement that was made by the author that in 1952, the average community in northern Ghana was miles away from a health facility. That the children were walking barefoot, that they didn't have chairs to sit for school, all those things. Now, in 2023, what is the situation? We have a situation where children are still sitting under sheds. And when I talk about the shed, thatch roof. Where when it is raining,
School is over.
School is over. And it is in 2023. When in Japan, they are doing robotics class at age 6. They are playing with coding. Age 6. We are competing with such people.
In the global world.
Exactly. How can we compete? And what is so disheartening is that our leaders, they tickle themselves and they laugh that they are doing so well. I listened to the Minister of Education talking about education in Ghana. And at times, I think they are far removed from reality. And if they want to know what is happening, they should just dress casual. They should just board the trotro. They should just decide to just travel to the countryside without a driver. They should drive themselves. Then they'll see the reality. No convoy.
People will be done.
So that they can feel the reality. Today, I saw a VC at faculty. He got down from his car. He was walking to the place. Yes. Do we see this in our national leaders?
Security will go ahead.
No.
Sweep.
People will be done.
And
you see, for the disappointments, that's where they fear. You know, Boris Johnson walks to a shop in UK, in London.
Sure.
And then the shopkeeper asked him, Boris, you are back here today? He said, yes. I'm sure today you didn't come with your bike. He said, yeah, I brought it. It's parked outside. Oh, so you didn't bring a car? I said, no, I'm exercising. And everybody around wanted to take pictures with him. He walks out, just take off the lock, sat on his bike.
Off he went.
Bicycle. Can you imagine John Mahama riding bicycle?
Even when he tried motorbike, it was...
you see, sometimes this issue about your own ghost chasing you is a different thing.
We seem to have a caller online. Please, caller, identify yourself and then let's go on. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, hello. Your name and where you're calling from, and go ahead straight with your comments, please.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
I'm happy about the program at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm listening to Dr. LATEY.
Yeah. Can you speak up a little, please? Whoa. It looks like our caller is off the line. Well, we appreciate your pleasantries, and they have heard you loud and clear. Please, shall we go? In the next 7 minutes, we are out.
If you do things that are good, people will celebrate you on the street. But when you do bad things, I mean, people will not forgive you when they see you on the street. And you see, for me, leadership in Africa is towing a direction where we, the citizens, cannot be proud of our leaders.
Wow.
Yes. And that is for a fact. I mean, there's a president who went to France. You know, people threw water at him. You know, in our own country, some presidents have gone to the UN, people waiting and hooting at them. All right. Why? Because
something is going wrong.
Something is not going right. And you see, Moses Asaga, I'm just alluding to what Doc earlier on said, that after 20 years when he's on retirement, reading newspapers probably he may not be proud because of the product he has produced. You see, Moses Asaga, when he was Minister for Health, a colleague of his, a parliamentarian, went to him to ask for admission into medical school. And he said that, is your ward qualified? Is the person qualified? So, but he said, no, the person is not qualified. You want me to get him in there. Now, when he's out, I have a complication, and imagine your man or your son or daughter is coming to operate on me knowing she wasn't qualified. Do you think I will allow? No. This one, you can go to wherever you want to.
Wow. Wow.
And you see, these are the realities. You get my point? I have taught students that at a point in time, course come in. Dr. Tutu, this your student has written for employment. Knowing you, we want to ask. So sometimes you check your records and you know that these students, no. What are you going to say? You see, now, the kind of legacies we are putting up will determine our worth tomorrow.
The kind of legacies we are putting up will determine our worth tomorrow. Time is just not a friend to us. We are about ending. So, Dr. AMANOR, let me have your concluding statement, and then we'll make way for the other programs to go through.
Well, thank you. And today we have spoken about Jerry John Rawlings as PNDC chairman and what he did the economy. Then we have looked at his contribution to education in Ghana. Yeah. Incidentally, this is the university responsible for the training of teachers for this country, the University of Education.
Which he set up.
Exactly. He had education at heart. And we should also say that he established UDS.
Perfectly.
Which is now...
with his own money.
Yes, with his own money. He didn't name it...
After himself.
After his uncle.
Even when they wanted, please... After himself.
He didn't.
After his uncle.
Even when the university wanted to name it after him, he said no.
Yes. So those are the good sides of Jerry Rawlings that we will praise him for.
Selfless
but
person.
he had a love for education. His contribution to education, so much, the reforms that came and all. He was seeking to build a Ghana where we will have the manpower that we need in order to move forward in our development as a society. And I wish that we will attempt to look at all the various educational review policies, reports, and see where we are. Whether in 1952, 1957, 1960, 1987, the education we have today was what we saw then back then. If the education we have today is not what we envisaged decades ago, then it tells you that the leaders we've had over the period, they have failed us.
Need I say more? The guests have really done justice to what we had come to talk about. I know you have your own views. The Facebook page is there. Keep posting there. We will look at it when we come to the next week. And on this note, I want to say a very big thank you to you, Dr. AMANOR Latey and Dr. Bernard TUTU-BOAHENE. We are so grateful you passed through today. And to the production team, Felix Amukwedu, Francis Bolle, Bright Fuga, the technical team led by EBENEZER and Osman Mumunim, and of course the multimedia team, Bismarck Ampon, Caesar, Abraham, Benedict Techi, Emmanuel Pabite, Andy Hammond, and Samuel Kojo Enyan. I am yours truly, Colin Zago, saying that this is Hotspot. God willing, next week we are back on the block and we'll bring you all that you need to have right here on this very network. KOFI, AWUKU.
This is Radio Windy Bay. Windy Bay 98.3 FM.
The wait is over. The long wait is over. Hotspot is back on Radio Windy Bay 98.3 FM on every Tuesday between 7:30 and 10 p.m. I'm sure you really want to be part of this intellectual discussion.